Welcome everyone, welcome to tonight's BullCharts User Group webinar for remote users, Melbourne users, all BullCharts users. Don't forget, there's no financial advice tonight. All of this is for your own information. We've not taken into consideration any particular financial needs. And I have to say that one should always seek professional advice before entering into financial or other arrangements. I have to say that. I don't like saying it. David, I'd like to make you welcome. You're familiar to some of the people around the virtual table tonight, being a long-term participant of our user group. And you've presented to us previously. David, I'd like to make you welcome and invite you to share your presentation with us. David, it's over to you. Thank you kindly.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for the introduction. And yeah, what I want to talk to about tonight is trending stocks and how do I find them. So my presentation tonight is really about momentum versus trends, because sometimes they talk about momentum rather than trend. Some features of a strong trend, what I look for in a trend, a few of my ideas, and really most of this information is not new, but maybe it's just in a different format. So let me see. Righto, this is my disclaimer. Robert's already put his up, but this presentation is no advice. It's for educational purposes, and it's for your general awareness. There's no recommendation to take any action or invest any money in any way. And always consult a licensed advisor before making an investment decision. So that's my disclaimer. And so whatever you see here, if it's useful, that's good. If it's not, well, move on. So this presentation is about how I set my chart ups, my criteria for stock selection. For some, it'll be a bit overcomplicated with too many indicators. But that's me. I like colour and visual indicators. BullCharts, I think, is a great charting program because it offers a great range of styles and indicators. And this presentation, scan and indicators is all available on the BullCharts User Group Google Drive. Just talk to Robert about how you can access that. So first of all, momentum investing. You might read about it, but basically it's more based on fundamentals, sales, etc. Often it'll be something like VHP, you know, there's rising iron ore prices, so therefore, you know, the price should rise. Whereas trend trading is really trying to look at predicting the direction of a stock or a market. Now, trends can be either up, down, or sideways. There's only three ways it can go. Most trends don't go in straight lines, they go in zigzag, and most trends show peaks and troughs. And it's really these peaks and troughs that define the direction of the trend. An uptrend can be defined by higher peaks and higher troughs, or what I call higher highs and higher lows. And my starting point is a close above 20 simple moving average on a weekly chart with supporting evidence. Why have I chosen 20 SMA? Because I've played around with lots and it fits with Bollinger Bands and Donchian channels. They all use 20 SMA. Now, this is a cartoon I probably showed you before, but I think it's I like this guy. He's a cartoonist out of the US, and two guys talking about autumn. We're into autumn, and the leaves are falling, and yep, it's higher highs and lower lows. So anyway, that's my little bit of a joke. Anyway, identifying an uptrend, it's not always easy in the early stages, and often a trend can start and then just fade away. And that's really part of investing. So when does a downtrend or sideways trend become an uptrend? Most trends generally I've found have taken between 8 to 12 weeks or longer to develop. And you need a few things that you can observe. You need, as I said, a close above the 20 SMA, rising moving averages, and a few other indicators to give you some direction and technical analysis to keep you in the trend. So there's the background to it all. Now, this is a picture I took out of the Unidata track in South Australia. That's the Alger Buckner Bridge. Up to a few years ago, it was the longest bridge in South Australia, but not anymore. So anyway, so what indicators can help you identify trend direction? Well, there's actually lots. Trend lines, channels, linear regression, high highs, moving averages, oscillators, guppy, multiple moving averages, Ichimoku cloud, the order and angle and separation between moving averages, coloured candles, which I'll talk about a bit later, based on a moving average crossover. You can use line charts, Heikin-Ashi candles, which Alec spoke to us a few months ago. There's also things like the super trend indicator, and a thing I really like is a high-low trading band. Also Bollinger Bands, dodging channels and trading channels. So there's lots. And I think you, in my case, what works for me. So that's a bit out of kilter, that one. But anyway, I look visual, high markers, moving average and ribbons and oscillators. And I've also drawn up I've coloured my candles to align with the moving average. So they're black if they're above, and if they're below, they're red. As I said, close above the 20 SMA and a rising linear regression channel. Also, I use the moving average oscillator, which is really just two moving averages put into an oscillator. And to me, it gives a visual effect. I also look at things like rising volume, on balance volume, and Heikin-Ashi candles. Now, the lower low and high values. BullScript's got these two functions. Some people may be aware of, but what they do is they return the lowest or highest value over a selected period, and they can be written as an indicator with a marker. So what I've chosen to use is my settings at 10 period. This is for weekly, and a close above or below the 20 SMA. What it helps me do is identify strong price action early in an uptrend or a downtrend for that matter. So in my case, I look for lots of high markers on the chart, which suggests to me that the trend's a bit stronger. Now, this is a Whitehaven Gold. I've been watching this for a while, and this is going back to 2020, the middle of 2020. You can see that the candles are all red. It's below the 20. This is a trading band. It's a 20 period moving average trading band. I'll tell you a bit more about it later. And as you can see, as we got down to the bottom here, this is, and all of the pink are all lower lows. So there's no, unless you're shorting the stock, there's no point in even being interested in it. But it's around about here somewhere that we see a trend change. First of all, we see suddenly we see your lower lows are no longer there. We've got three blue candles that says it's up. We've got a regression channel that's heading higher, and we've also got some ribbons down here, which is really just copying that. And the same with this oscillator down the bottom. It's an 820 oscillator. And this is, you can see it's been red all the way along here, and all of a sudden it's popped its head up, and I bought some here, and then of course it did what all things happen, and it pulled back to here, so I was out of the money, but eventually it went on to higher things. So as you can see that it's now heading upwards, and probably you can see it's heading upwards. And they've got higher highs. We've got blue high highs, prices above the 20 SMA. Had a pull back here, and it's now heading higher. These are today's prices. So I use both weekly and daily charts. I find weekly charts are better for a longer term view. Daily charts just too much noise, but they're useful for monitoring entries and exits. With my weekly charts, I use coloured candles and selected marker ribbons and various things I've talked about. On my daily charts, I've been playing around with using a 100 SMA trading band and a 1310 coloured weighted moving average. And I'll just demonstrate this in the next couple of charts, looking at Westpac Bank. Now, this is Westpac Bank going back to about 3 years, over the last 3 years. This is the COVID crash here, and you can see that this is the green 820 SMA. This is the closed low channel. It's actually a 20 SMA close and low. You can have them high, close or low, but I choose to have it a bit thinner. And funnily enough, the 20 SMA low is pretty close to the close 30 SMA. I know that sounds a bit complicated, but essentially this is probably close to a 30 SMA close. So that's some sort of give you some sort of indication. You can see here that the weekly candles in the down are red, and when they start to move up, they turn to clear. And so when they start to get above the 20 SMA, they turn to black. And basically it's black all the way up here until they turn down and close below the 20 SMA. And as I say, these are the higher markers. And this is my 20 period linear regression channel, which you've got access to on BullCharts. This one is also another 20 period linear regression channel, which I've found in the BullCharts library that keeps on going as the price keeps on going. So it'll keep following the price, and you can get an indication of trend direction. This is the 820 SMA oscillator, and in this case, I bought it. Westpac at about 1930 here. Of course, it did what all my stocks do, traded back down again, but eventually started to trade up, and I got out. As soon as this red candle came here, I got out, but most of the banking stocks all did something similar. Bank of Queensland was one that I nearly bought, but I kept on watching it, and I bought Westpac. So this is the same chart, but only daily, and this is the same once again. Monitoring it on a daily basis. This is where I bought it. Once again, we've got black candles above the 100 SMA, which is roughly equivalent to 20 SMA. I know it's not, but it sort of gives you a rough idea. And if it's below, the candles are red. This is the 1300 SMA. I've gone for 13 just to give a little bit of clearance away from the price, and because once I find the price starts to move below the 13 SMA, that sort of signals to me that you've got to be a bit vigilant and find out what's happening. It happened here, and it happened here, but of course eventually it closed below, and that was where I bailed out. As I say, this is a 100 SMA closed low channel. I like it because it's sort of, what shall we say, it's a sort of a barrier. And once it gets over that barrier, you want to be very careful. Once again, this is an oscillator at the bottom showing that the exit was fairly well timed. And once again, I bought it 1930 and out here at 25.30. I find line charts very good for identifying positions. This is I think it's a 120 SMA, and down here in my second pane I have Heikin-Aschke candles coloured, which gives, once again, is a pretty good example of using an indicator. So once again, I bought up here, sold out here. So that was the trade. So, and basically that's just a 30-20 SMA down there. So a little bit of history. In my early life, I was an irrigation farmer growing rice out in Western New South Wales. And I got involved in rice research, and one of the things that we were funding the Department of Agriculture and CSIRO and a few other people. So the question got asked is, how did top growers get high yields? So about the mid-80s, the Department of Agriculture studied what top growers did to achieve high yields. And they developed a management package based on a series of checks, and they became known as Rice Check. In the early days, it was manual, but it very soon became computerized. And so we found that by growers adopting these checks, they really got some quite good yield increases. This is a picture of me in my earlier days, and the department basically found there was 10 basic sort of things. Growers needed there was an optimum planting date, there was a correct plant population, they needed to have a fertiliser application that the plant required, weed control, water, all simple, basic, simple things. But if you got them all right, you generally got good yields. And as I said, the idea is not new; it's been used everywhere, aviation, medicine, etc. So I sort of started to think, well, can it be used for stock selection? So what sets a strong trending stock apart from others? So I thought about this for a while, and then I thought, well, it's got to be. I started doing a search on the internet, and there's a lot of information out there. Most of it in general nature, and I won't say simplistic, but didn't sort of suit me. And I thought, well, I really need to start looking at what stocks in the ASX have done well in, say, the last 4 or 5 years. So BullCharts got some pretty good scanning technology. So I scanned the XKO, the top 300, and I came up with about 50 stocks. These are some of them. Some of them are pretty obvious. Neomaps, Mineral Resources, Z1P, Afterpay, Zero, Domino Pizzas, IGO. And so I started looking at those to try and sort of see what were the things that really set them apart. And basically what I found was mostly simple things, visual and colour. I found the high markets pretty good. I found the moving average crossover, trading brand, regression channels, and the ribbons and oscillators, and that's what I've come up with. So let's look at a couple of strong weekly charts over the last 4 years and what I call a couple of no-goes or pretty average charts. So the first one, this is Pilbara Metals, pretty standard. And as I said, what I found from my checks was close above 20 SMA, high highs, lots of blue arrows. I mean, certainly got it all down here. Green, 820 SMA, the rising channel. That's pretty obvious. And also the rising linear regression. So there we had it, and once again all of these all lined up, all the stars lined up, so to speak. We had more up here too at the same time. There's more up further. This is Afterpay. Once again, we've got lots of blue arrows here. We got more up here, and we certainly got more up here. And this is, of course, after the COVID crash. But so it was pretty obvious in hindsight, I must admit, because I did have some of this, but I didn't have as many as I should, and I didn't take it right to the end. Domino Pizzas. Now this is where very strong back here in September, October 19. There's the COVID crash, but of course once people realised that people were going to eat in and order pizzas, it started to boom. So, and right up here. Of course, eventually, like all of these things, they came to an end, and people started to cook at home. And so this big red candle this red candle here was a warning. This one was a major warning. Bailout. Yeah, I didn't own this. I didn't. That was not one of my stocks. Mineral Resources is a classic because it had an enormous number of blue candles up here. At 15 or 18, and there were a lot of brokers recommending Mineral Resources. It wasn't just, it certainly attracted a lot of interest. So, and this is the latest one. So you can see there's a couple more blue arrows up here. Linus Resources, the same thing. Blue candles here, blue candles there, and now it's struggling a bit, and it's down to about $9.50. Now this is what I call a messy chart. I watched this and I sort of was looking at it and thinking, well, it's a possible buy. And then it just went sideways and did nowhere. And then it started to move here, and I thought, oh, this is a possibility. So I did buy it. I bought it at about 10.75. And then I got up here, and then it had this big black candle, and I thought, oh, this is not good, so time to bail out. So I made a bit of profit, but nothing brilliant. And it's now trying to struggle up again, so that was not one of my better. Now, this is one of my poorer charts. This is Regis Resources, I think. Yeah, Regis Resources, and I bought it about here at about $1.27. I was convinced gold prices were going to rise, and I couldn't have been further wrong if I'd tried. And that's a classic case of listening to the news instead of watching what's happening. And then I had to bail out at 69 cents, and not an exciting trade, but anyway, move on. So, and it is actually just starting to move here. It's on my watch list, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Oz Minerals, here's another classic one. Once again, this is the COVID crash here. It had some activity back here, but a lot of activity here. Now sort of entered into what I call a sideways consolidation, and it had a bit of, no, it was S32 had a pullback today, but at the moment I think it depends on how copper prices go. So now this is one I didn't have, Kogan, and yet it was I have probably never seen a chart with so many blue arrows on it in a line. I couldn't convince myself that an online retailer would go to $20 or $25. Anyway, that's life, and you know, it's easy to be wise in hindsight. So, but the warning signs up here were a big outside day candle, black, followed by another one here. Boom! It was all over. Anyone is, you know, I mean, and this is the lowest price. And I mean, people are still buying it, but I've no understanding of why, because to me it's just trending down. Time to move on to something else. So Kogan not on, and yeah. So Aristocrat Leisure, another one, and lots of blue candles here, but once again a big black candle up the top here. Yeah, I should say, yeah, a big black candle. I'll just go back to that one, sorry. A big black candle's up here and out here. So, this is Westfield. It wasn't a strong chart. They were talking it up in the market, and it did have a bit of a rise, but once it got to there, it flattened off. And I didn't participate in it. I couldn't see that shopping centres were going to be quite or go anywhere with COVID, and it's only, even now I think they're struggling, Myers, Westfield, so I couldn't get interested in that chart at all. So my monitoring of weekly charts, as I say, 20-period linear regression channel, more high markers, and I keep checking the liquidity for the trades. I check the daily charts for supporting indicators, and if you find that the 820 SMA is too restrictive, consider using a 1334 simple moving average. It gives you a bit more wiggle room, but it depends on your risk profile. We looked at white open coal before, but I just like using this low value to identify the downtrend and linear regression to the start of the uptrend, and that's what I look for. Now you can also colour these candles so that they're if they're above or below the 20 SMA, they're red all the way down, and if they're above the 20 SMA, they're blue all the way up. Now I personally like to see candles going up and down. I like to see up and down weeks, but if you choose to want to have your candles all one colour, that's an option. It doesn't suit me, but that's so my scan. I scan all the securities, and the reason I scan all the securities is because I like to look at the ETFs. My scans are sorted on price change, but if you want to reduce your risk profile, you can scan the All Ordinaries or the XJO or the XKO, whatever you want. You can also reduce your risk by raising the market capital to, say, 200 million, trades to 1,000 a week and close greater than 50 cents or $1, whatever your risk profile is. I like using the 20-period slope indicator to gauge the strength of the trend strength. And because I subscribe to intraday data, I often run a scan at 3:30 looking for opportunities. I run 3 scans at the end of the end of day data, which comes out about 20 to 8. And if you're using a weekly scan in the middle of the week, remember to tick the checkbox, use incomplete periods, so it takes up 2 or 3 days of the week that we're already in. If not, it'll discount the week you're trading in and only just look at the last week. So number 1 scan is a weekly scan. I look for high 10-period scan. I look for any arrow in the last 5 weeks. Sometimes I decrease that down to 3 weeks. My second scan is just simply a rising trend with the 20, 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 SMA all above each other and rising. Pretty simple. And also a daily scan looking for stocks crossing above the 100 SMA in the last 70 days or 13 weeks. They're the ones that I find most useful, but that's and once again these are included at the end. When I view my scan results, I check the market cap and the dollars traded and the number of trades. I look for the number of trades both today and this week and last week. Of course, my scan stocks will be above 20 SMA. I also check visually the number of high markers. I confirm that the 820 MA is right and everything else. And I do sometimes look at volume charts because I think it's important. But as I say, recognise that some setups can look good but often can fail. So decisions from your scan results. 1 high marker, potential, put on your watch list. 2 high markers, possible entry. You've got to look for supporting indicators. If you get 3 high markers, it's probably a likely entry. And provided other things align, it's probably a go. And after your entry, you then monitor the uptrends for high and high lows, and make sure that the linear regression channels are rising. And you exit if it closes below the 20 SMA. You might get a little bit of wiggle room, but as I say, watch for the big down candles, whether red or black, near the 20 SMA. It's generally a sign that people are moving out of the stock and into something else. Just keep a check on your daily charts for exit. Now, this is one I did last week. And this is what my scan looks like. And remember, this is the week after Easter. So Alchem Limited, which is AKE, that's a mixture of Galaxy and Oracorp, and it's about an $8.6 billion account. And you can see that the trades were the trades were the week before Easter were 92,000. The week after Easter, the 67, and that would suggest to me that it's a case of some people the market wasn't very busy after Easter. So, and I like looking at the number of trades. For example, down here, you would look at a stock like GDI Property only got 1,800 trades for the week. I couldn't get really excited by that. Whereas someone like Westpac, down here is 44,000. So that's the way I sort of look at it. I like to also put in here what sectors they're in, and you can see materials have been pretty strong over the last few weeks, as you would expect. So in summary, my 10 stock checks are a close above 20 SMA, a rising SMA channel, high markers indicating an uptrend, green 820 SMA fill, black candles you can see up here, and the rising linear regression channel. The other thing, of course, are the green moving average ribbons, the rising volume, and I do sometimes look at ADX. So essentially a word of caution, my coding skills are limited. There may be errors. I'm no computer programmer. I'm just a bit of a hacker. I've sourced my ideas from BullChart forums and the internet. I've used other people's ideas. I've tried to acknowledge authors and sources. I've modified and changed indicators and scans, or you need to change this to suit your style. There's no license on these. These are just what I play around with. And these all can be copied and pasted into BullCharts. So to wrap up, I like using a check system to locate stocks, trade what you see, not the news. That's always hard to do because you're always looking. Trends take time to develop. Some last a few weeks, others take much longer. But remember, some strong trends can last up to 50 weeks. For example, ARB went for over 80 weeks. Losses are part of trend trading. You've got to view it as a trading expense. And as I've said many times, watch for large weekly down candles, often an exit signal. Exit close below the 20 SMA, and also keep reviewing your daily charts. I do have a look at a couple of other scans. I look at best stocks over 5 days, 52-week high, price and volume over the last 3 weeks, and 3 consecutive high highs. But that's I just have a bit of a play around. So just remember, bull markets are more fun than bear markets. Today was a good example. It wasn't exciting, but that's the way it is. So the trend is your friend, and I'll take questions or comments. Robert.
David, very good.
You there,
Thank
Robert?
you. Yes. David, that was good. Thank you. And there's often a 2 to 3 second delay with audio and video as well. So anyone else there out there needs to just bear that in mind if they have a chance to speak. David, thank you for that. That was very interesting. I liked the mention of the HHVs, the high values, that BullChart script formula that's available, that is not all that easy to find.
Correct.
Unless people know about it and go looking for it.
David, there's Kevin here.
Yeah, there you go, Kevin.
Kevin.
Yes, I am interested in how you did the higher high and higher low, lower low markers on the chart. Can you give us a bit more depth in how that was done?
Right. Well, if we went down to the next one, it's actually in this panel here, which is available on the Google Drive. But it's basically it just simply the coding is really, it says look for the close with a high value, close 10 minus 1, and the close is above the 20 simple moving average. And I just sort of played around and worked out that you had to put it in as a target, as a price, and as a marker, and a tooltip, and it came up with a blue arrow. That's how I did it, but that can be copied straight into BullCharts, and it'll do it straight away.
Excellent. Thanks very much.
David, Alec here. Great
Alec.
Presentation. Thank you very much. It was really excellent. Just one question. You're talking about when you're doing your weekly scans, you said you mark the incomplete periods box.
Correct.
Have you ever thought of using the other option, the rolling periods one? Have you tried that at all?
No, I haven't. No, righto. I'm willing. I'm open to all. What does that do, Alec?
Well, as I understand it, and Robert might correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if, for example, you do a scan on a Monday night and you're using rolling periods, then it calculates a week, which actually goes from the previous Tuesday to include the Monday of the scan. So in other words, it recalculates 5-day blocks to make up your weeks. I think that's right, isn't it, Robert?
Yes, Alec, that's quite true.
Yeah, I've used it. The the difficulty is that when you do that, it doesn't, of course, relate to the chart, because the chart, that if you have a weekly chart in front of you, it's still calculated or shown on a Monday to Friday basis. And even though you might have done a scan, which was done on the Monday night, you can't actually see that chart for exactly that period. So it's a little bit odd, but I thought in doing some of these things, if you've got the data gathered in groups of 5 days, then it doesn't really matter what day of the week you do the scan, they still should all be sort of balanced. I just wondered, because I've never actually used the incomplete data option. I did try it on something earlier today to see whether it made much difference, and it did seem to make some difference. So, but I haven't really got to understanding, how that difference affects what I was scanning for. So I just had wondered whether you'd had any experience of using the other option.
No, I haven't, Alec. It's a good comment. I certainly will. I will explore it, because I must admit I just simply read using incomplete period, meaning that it was just to use a sort of a half week or a bit of a week, because I did try it without using incomplete periods in it, but I thought it wasn't good enough. It was just simply dropping off the week you were in, and all right, I'll try that and see what happens.
I mean, as an example, David, in quite a few of my scans, I like to include the value traded, and of course, if you use incomplete periods and you've set your value traded to include a week's worth of value, then if you have an incomplete period, it's going to more than likely reject it, because you've only had, say, 1 day of trading in the incomplete period. So it can have an impact if you do that, and that's why I've always tried to use the rolling periods, thinking then that the value traded would be 5 days worth, not an incomplete period, potentially as little as 1 day's worth.
Yeah, righto. All right, I'll explore that out, because I'm sure there's lots of things I don't know about BullCharts.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether it'll make a lot of difference to what you're doing, but I was really curious whether you might have experimented with that at some stage. That's all.
No, I haven't, but I will.
Thank you.
David, can I just add some comments to sort of what both you two guys were just talking about?
Yeah, no problem.
Basically, some time ago, I had a chat with Brendan about why charts start on the day they do, and they start on a Monday. So if you look at a weekly chart, say, it starts on a Monday. So what you first said is actually correct, is if you run a scan on, say, a Tuesday weekly chart, for argument's sake, and you have the first box ticked, you'll get the Monday and the Tuesday of that week. Right. So let's just say we're trading today or this week, and you have that first box ticked. The only data you're going to get is the 26th of April.
Yep.
If you tick the box below that, the rolling period, it will go back 1 week and look from Wednesday to Tuesday, I think it is, or Wednesday to Wednesday.
Yeah, right, so 5 days, yeah.
The 5-day roll, yeah. So you could do it on, say, Thursday, but you'll get the previous 5 days or the 5 week or whatever you set the period to. Right, and if you are in intraday or even snapshot, it's no different to it being end of day. So I've been using that mode for quite some time, and it works really well.
Oh, no, thanks for that, Ross.
So that's basically it.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's good. No, I'll give that a try, and yeah, or I should explore it more too. Yeah.
But also, I don't know if you know, but when you run a scan, or if you have the detailed watch list up at say 1:19 p.m. in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's hard to know when the scans run, but if you have a detailed watch list up with the column of price movements, all the cells will change colour at say 1:20 p.m.
Yeah.
Right, and then you know the scan has happened, and then after that you can scan manually of whatever.
Yeah, I often check that the price has been downloaded at 3:20. Simply just run it again, and it says, "Oh, it's been downloaded." Or 99 times out of 100, it downloads it automatically, but every now and again it doesn't. Yeah.
But if you just even set up a very simple watch list with codes, and you might need one or two columns, I just can't think off the top of my head, but you'll see them change colour from whatever to yellow and then back to normal, and that's when the timing snapshot happens, and then you know it's happened visually, and then you can just run your scan as close to say 1:20 or 2:20 or whatever that you want to do.
I've got a question, David. First, I'd like to say it's I really appreciated your presentation. There's a lot of work in it, but I've got a query about your ribbon, your MACD ribbon.
Right, yeah.
What are you doing there? Are you comparing that the 3 period, 10 period, and 16 period are greater than the
Michael, that's a Linda Reski MACD. It's gone away from the conventional one, and if you Google it, I'm happy to once again. I may not be in but I'm happy to give you a copy of it. There's no. It's. I'm a bit of a fan of Linda Reski. I've sort of watched her on YouTube and read some of her articles, and she uses it quite a lot. So that's why I in and out of it a bit, but yeah, that's what I'm looking at there.
David, there's some feedback in the chat box. Everyone said it's been a really good presentation, excellent presentation. So thank you, David, for putting that together.
All right, that's good.
No more questions.
David, Kevin here.
Yes, Kevin.
Just an observation. You mentioned that when you generally buy into a stock, it always seems to have a retrace over the following days.
Yeah.
I know that feeling extremely well, having suffered the same phenomenon. What I have started doing is I plot the midpoint of the candle body of the trigger day, and I'll put my buy price in at the midpoint. And quite often it gets picked up in the subsequent days around that price.
Right, that's a good advice. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah,
look out to help fine tune your entry.
Yeah, and you get some, you miss some, but at the end of the day, there's always plenty out there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Good idea.
David, I had a question. Leonie here. You mentioned about a 20-period slope indicator.
Yes, it's basically a slope close indicator. It just calculates the slope. It just calculates it, puts a mathematical formula on it, and says if it's above 100, it's pretty good. If it's about 20 or 30, it's pretty flat. So it's just trying to gauge the angle of the. It doesn't measure in degrees, Leonie, but it just puts a numerical number on it that I find useful.
BullCharts, is it?
It's a standard indicator in BullCharts. And I noticed there's a parameter in there that's hard-coded. So if anyone wants to edit the script, clone it, make it a custom indicator, and edit the script and try a different parameter, different number of periods, that might give you different results, better results. David, thank you again.